Should you learn one language at a time or multiple languages simultaneously, whatever that means? Um, let's talk about this. So, I learn multiple languages. So to me, the question doesn't make a lot of sense since, in my view, there's no end to learning, right? There's no end to learning a language. You're just, it's a behavior. It's happening all the time. It's usage. So if I were to, what would that mean to learn one language at a time if I am always learning all of the languages? I've seen some videos of people. Actually, I haven't seen that many videos. I've seen some thumbnails, or I don't know if all of them are clickbaits, of people recommending you to learn a set amount of languages at a time. I don't know what that means exactly. That might be a misinterpretation of mine, because again, there's no end. So like, you're only adding new languages to your set of languages. Let's say. So learning only one, what would that mean actually? Maybe these people are talking about learning the basics or getting to a certain point in the language. Then that might be reasonable to say that. I don't know if I do that, honestly. I haven't been paying attention to that, but probably I don't go with more than two languages when I'm just starting out. But like, after getting to a certain point, from that point onwards, it's only a continuation. It's an endless behavior. It's learning. It's part of your lifestyle. So from that point onwards, I would just add another language. That might be the case. That might be what I do. But in the end of the day, I'm just learning lots of languages simultaneously. I enjoy having a multilingual lifestyle, daily life. So it's only improvement. At times I am having more contact with this language. At times I'm having more contact with this other language. At times I start learning a new language altogether that is totally new to me, and I keep improving at that. But like, all the while, I am still using and improving all other languages. For instance, right now I've been learning for some time two new languages to me, which are Chinese and Norwegian. So if this question applies to new languages, then I might be inclined possibly to agree, because if you don't know anything of a language and you just start several at once, then it would make sense. But ultimately, you're only adding new languages. You're constantly learning, always, right? There's no end. There's no situation in which you go and say, the end, I've learned this language. It's only a continuation. Right? So to me, it's kind of irrelevant. This question of, I think it would come up to taste. What do you want to do? Are you interested in two languages? Do you want to focus a bit more on one and supposedly learn that one a bit better before you go for the other one? I think it's a matter of taste. I think it's always changing. My behavior is slightly changing always. But in the long run, I'm always learning all languages. And every once in a while, I add a new language. So that would be my view on it. So ultimately, it's relevant. The only exception I would say is if you are a beginner to language learning, if you're just starting to get into languages, it might be just too exhaustive to learn multiple languages, of course, because the first one, or maybe probably the second one, because everyone speaks at least one language, okay, but like the first language you start to learn consciously as an adult or a teenager, or as a teenager, the first one is going to be tougher because you're learning how to learn. It involves a lot of self-knowledge. You're understanding yourself better. You're building your habits. You're understanding how you work, how language learning works, and how it works for you. So in that case, it might not be a good idea to just go around with multiple languages because it can be too exhaustive. Or maybe it couldn't. I mean, you have to try things out and see what works best for you. Okay, so in my opinion, things I like about learning lots of languages simultaneously is diversification. That would be one point. I have a good time alternating between things. For instance, my reading habits, I like reading a chapter. I read a couple books at the same time. There are times that I will read through one book, but lots of times I'm just reading some books simultaneously. I like alternating between things I do in my day. So I read a chapter of this book that is, maybe a technical book on whatever topic, finance, and then I read a chapter of a novel, and then I go exercise, and then I do some Duolingo on whatever language. I like alternating, so diversifying languages is also interesting for me. It keeps things fresh to me, it keeps things new, and it just resets my brain in the short-term period. So I do like a Duolingo lesson on Norwegian, and then I do one, or maybe a couple in Norwegian, and then I do a couple in Chinese. It just changes. I like changes for it works well for my brain to keep things fresh and to just look away a little bit from something into something else. It's not like I need to rest my brain. No, like the change, just looking at something else already, is relaxing to my brain. So reading one chapter of a book, maybe a couple chapters, and then reading a couple chapters of another book, it just keeps things fresh to me. Again, not always will I do that. At times I just read through, but at least recently, most of the time I've noticed that I do this. I like changing. Another thing that I took note here is your interest. I like learning different languages. I just out of the blue, out of nowhere, I'm just like, I'm gonna start learning a bit of this language. So if I would restrain myself and limit myself to, I have to get through this language, and then I get to the next one, I'm just not interested in that. I'm just having a good time as well. While it is a good behavior and a healthy habit, in my opinion, language learning, it is also, I'm just having a good time all the while. So I don't have a lot of rules to that, and so like restricting myself to one language necessarily wouldn't be as interesting to me. I mean, why would I do that? There's just no bigger reason to me, especially as I have just said that you're just continuously learning. So again, like the first the beginning, when I start a language, maybe I will give a bit more closer focus or stronger focus to that until I reach like a minimum level, and then I go with another new language. Not to talk about languages that I've been learning for a longer period, or a longer period in comparison to this new one language. Still, I'm always dabbling with different languages, so it doesn't really bother me. It's kind of a personal thing. It's preference. My conclusion to this is it's a matter of preference. People do things differently. People enjoy things differently. So I think the thing that will keep you excited the most and you have the most fun with, that's the best thing you gotta do within the habit. Of course, there's discipline, there's all that, but now within a established habit, you have your own preferences. We all have our own preferences, okay? So if you have the habit and you build the habit through discipline, then within the realm of having that established habit, we do things differently. We are different. So I think you should try everything and you will figure out what you like best. To me, it's not really a thing. I learn multiple languages at the same time. I can say that. That's the behavior I enjoy the most. I'm just having a good time, really, so no big drama about it. And yeah, language is a continuous journey. There's no end, so I'm just adding new languages every once in a while. I spend more time with a language, and then I go for another one, and then I go back to that one and improve even further. So it's always going on. So yeah, my final thoughts would be to say that you do your own thing, you develop your own behavior. Only again, if you're a total beginner, maybe you should go with one, okay? Because you're gonna learn how to learn. It's a lot of I already talked about this, self-knowledge. But ultimately, what interests you? What languages are you interested in learning right now? Go with those ones. Just try it out. No big thing about it. Okay, so these are my thoughts on it. You can leave a commenting on your own opinion on it, if you want, and we can have a conversation about it. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Keep on learning. Yes, you can. You can learn, okay? Have a good time. Bye-bye.